This is Here in My Time, and I am so thankful and excited you've tuned in to this very first season of my brand new podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Hunt, and I am so honored to say that this first season of 16 episodes, hour-long weekly segments, is actually sponsored by one of my favorite stores in downtown Huntington, Indiana. Can you tell the excitement in my voice? That's right, you've guessed it, Turn the Page Books and Music Store. Rex is the owner of this fine establishment. This is the place to go if you are looking for your next read or to add to your vinyl collection. It is jam-packed full of used books, everything from fiction to nonfiction, and of course a huge variety of records from rock and roll to Taylor Swift. And let me tell you, Rex is the perfect owner because he is a music library. If you need help picking out your first record or maybe adding to your collection, this is the man for you. Whenever you walk in the door, music is playing constantly. You got perfect lighting. You've got the wooden floors. It's the perfect vibe to enjoy your day in. So make sure you stop in and visit, and also follow him on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much, Rex, for your support. It means the world to me. Now on to the episode. This is Here in My Time, the podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between generations. I'm your host, Lauren Hunt, a personal journalist, documentarian, photographer, and a lover of people and their stories, located here in Wabash, Indiana. Today, I am documenting the life of Debra Lynn, and I am so excited. She's a music extraordinaire, and thank you so much for being here, Debra.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to when I thought about what I wanted to ask you, I was looking at your profile on your website and the bio, and all I wanted to do was read the whole thing. So I figure I probably shouldn't, because there's so much in there that I thought we could just kind of find on our own.
There is a lot.
There is a lot. And you've led such an amazing life thus far. And I can't...
I'm old.
Well, no, I don't think
there's a lot.
You're very talented, and I can't wait to kind of jump into your story a little bit. So what I'm just going to do is just going to have you tell me a little bit about where you were born and when you were born and kind of your family dynamic.
Sure. I was born in Independence, Missouri, which is where Harry Truman was from.
Oh.
And I was actually born on September 22nd, 1963, 2 months to the day before John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So that's kind of a gloomy way to start your podcast, but it's kind of it's an event that's sort of puts me in a specific genre. But my mom was the town piano teacher, and also she played piano at our church. And my dad had a really, well, he's still alive. He has a terrific singing voice. And so it was just sort of inevitable that there would be music going on in my brother and I both. And that's kind of where things got started. I started piano lessons when I was 4. My husband often says that English is my second language because I could read music before I could read words.
Oh, wow.
But my mom got me started, and then I just kind of took off and was self-taught after that for a lot of years. But that was little old me back in Independence, Missouri. I kept moving east with each degree, so that's how I ended up in Indiana.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
That's quite a trek.
It is. I did my bachelor's degree at William Jewell College, which is near Kansas City, very close to about 20 miles from my house. And then my master's degree is from Truman State University on the east side of Missouri. And then I started doctoral studies in Illinois at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. But I left there because I had an opportunity to teach full-time for a year as a sabbatical replacement for my own voice teacher for undergrad. Wow. And so then when I decided to go back and pick up my doctoral work, I ended up at Ball State. My research interests are East Coast oriented, so like colonial American music. There's a composer named Charles Ives that I wrote my dissertation on, and was from Danbury, Connecticut. So I was kind of trying to get to the East Coast with my life, but I took a teaching position at Manchester University straight out of my doctorate. I was kind of thinking I'd stay there about 3 years and then move further east, but the peace and justice emphasis in their mission and their values at that university really got a hold of me and really agreed with sort of my spirit. And so I ended up staying for 26 years until my position was eliminated at the end of 2024. And so now I'm still conducting the orchestra there. And I decided to start this opera company. So that's the nutshell
of so far in your life.
Yeah.
So I guess what I want to do before I forget my train of thought on this, what was that peace and justice kind of thing? Can you kind of talk a little bit if you're comfortable about that?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I guess, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. I was born in 63. I started high school in the, 78, 79, graduated in 81. So I'm kind of in that generation that really was doing a lot of demonstrating and really cared a lot about, just the civil rights movement and all of these things were happening as I was growing up. And so, I never really went the full-blown hippie route, but I certainly, I wasn't interested in the drugs or any of that stuff, but fortunately, but I was very interested in those causes. And I grew up in the Baptist church, which you're familiar with some of that, I think, from your background. But, and eventually, so I was a person of faith and sometimes a little bit conflicted about, Christianity, what does that really mean? And how does that affect my interaction with the world? And so I ended up joining the Church of the Brethren, which is what the Manchester University affiliation is.
Okay.
And which is a very peace-oriented, it came out of the Mennonite tradition. So it's very pacifist-oriented. And so that really agrees with my sort of where I sit as far as, I don't want to say morals, but I guess so, morals, but more about where my values are. I just really admire a lot of the things about that denomination. So, and it doesn't separate itself from the world, which is what I appreciate. It's involved in the world. It's very volunteer oriented and let's interact, let's help people, let's do what we can to make this world a better place.
Ministry focused.
So not evangelical, which I appreciate also because I was raised that, you had to go stand on the corner and pass out pamphlets and save people all the time. And I just thought that just felt invasive to me. And so I was never very comfortable with that idea. As we grow, we evolve and we change.
Was there like a marker for you? I feel like I've grown into my faith as far as you grow up, you go with your mom and dad, you kind of learn as you grow up and you learn what kind of pulls and what kind of makes you think. And I think it's ever evolving.
Absolutely.
Which I hope it is. You know what I mean? You want to continually grow. I know you grew up with the civil rights and I know you grew up around those things, but what was it that was like, I want to stand for this cause?
Yeah. It probably started for me in college, which is kind of where it is for a lot of people. I think when once you move away from home and then you're starting to think for yourself. I went to William Jewell College, which is a liberal arts university. It was affiliated with the Southern Baptist denomination at the time I went there. It's no longer affiliated with them, but it was an interesting place because they also encouraged us to question our faith. And so it wasn't just, you must believe this and
like theology.
Yeah. The religion classes were, I thought, some of the most fascinating classes I took because they weren't teaching me the doctrine that I had always grown up with. They were teaching, these other things exist. And for that reason, there was always a little bit of an abrasive situation between the denomination and the college. And I think that's why they eventually split. But we were free to pursue artistic endeavors too. And art, artistic things don't always fit in the sheltered, typical American evangelical faith picture. So, Rubens, there are a lot of naked people in Rubens' art, and it's amazing art.
Yes.
But, that's something that makes people uncomfortable sometimes. But, if you're allowed to explore things from a more open-minded setting. So that was kind of that first foray into, these things exist in the world that I hadn't really experienced before. That was probably it, was starting college. Yeah.
I guess I kind of just want to run with that just slightly more. Did you ever protest? Did you really ever stand for something? Or as far as, even if not, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I love to hear that, because I've gone down, Maya Angelou is one of my, just first off, an amazing writer. First off, just an amazing human, and what she represented for so long. And it makes you want to stiff your back up. It makes you want to stand for something. And so was there ever a moment where you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm standing?
Say not so much at that age. There weren't really opportunities like that, at least that I knew of, at the college I went to. And musicians are, musicians are the busiest people in the world. We're just eking together our money from, gigging or whatever we can do. And the study of music in college is incredibly time-consuming and intense. And so I think that probably would have prevented me from doing a lot of going and doing a march somewhere. But in the 80s, which was when I was started college, that wasn't really going on so much anymore. That had kind of died. But I think if I had gone to a place like Manchester where that was encouraged, I probably would have been more inclined to do something like that. But a lot of my favorite music comes from, a lot of my favorite pieces are protest songs that I grew up listening to. We Shall Overcome. That's a great tune. Just so many things that were, I think, seeping in that I didn't realize into my subconscious. And I was very focused on starting my family and all that stuff. So I took a 4-year break from my undergraduate degree. So I went to school for 2 years. I got married. Dumb idea.
Now, how old were you probably at that time?
I was 18
when
I got married. And I had my first child when I was 21. And the person I married wanted to be a missionary. And that was interesting. Things kind of went downhill, and we ended up getting divorced. And my daughter from that marriage has autism. She still lives with us. She's 40 now. But that was an interesting time too. I don't want to get into a lot of details about what was going on in the marriage. But it was definitely not a good situation. But it was religiously the affiliation that he had with the church was really oppressive. So I spent about 7 or 8 years just feeling like the church was sitting on me and my faith was sitting on me. So, since that, he and I are great friends now, and he's married to a lovely person that I just adore. I think she's fabulous, and she's really good to my daughter. So it's all good. It's all water under the bridge. I had that little veer also. So it's kind of been all those things connected, made it a little bit sort of distracted me from the whole peace and justice thing. And then I sort of rediscovered it when I ended up at Manchester University. I was like, oh, I do have this in my spirit and in my brain. And so I think that was kind of a cool thing.
I'd love to ask about that is, do you believe everything happens for a reason?
Gosh.
I kind of threw that one out you.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand on that
Mhm.
because I question it all the time. When you raise a child with who is differently abled,
Mhm.
those kind of questions can be, it's like I I would like to believe everything happens for a reason, but what could possibly be the reason for anybody to
Mhm.
have that situation?
Right. Right.
She didn't deserve that. So I guess I'm not sure about that.
Well,
It might be a question I'll get answered at some point.
mhm. Yeah.
But right now, I'm just like, I don't know.
You just kind of go
And I'm
on.
okay with I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what I
Yeah.
love to kind of question because, you go through things in your life and things happen, bad things happen to good people and you wonder a lot of things. We all have our different stances
Yeah.
on that. But yeah, I always like to ask when things like that just to see where your mind goes. You kind of got veered off and you had that and you had a lovely child. My great uncle and aunt had a child who was Down syndrome
Yes.
and we lost her about 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But they're special.
Oh,
So not the special word that's used to describe as far as in a way that doesn't seem ineffective to them,
right.
but in a way that really describes who they are as just a
Yes.
person. They just are special, and it's not because of their condition or anything like that, but they're just special people. Well, I'm gonna kind of take us back just
Okay.
slightly, okay? Well, slightly as in to when you were very young. What was that 4 or 5-year-old young girl dreaming about in Missouri?
Well, uh, I really wanted to be a professional baseball player.
Yes.
We were all baseball fans in our family, and I had an older brother. He was 6 years older than me, and he was a great baseball player. In fact, my parents were devastated when he chose not to become a baseball player, but instead to become a composer.
Oh.
They were like, "What are you thinking? Do you know how much baseball players make?" But he was a contemporary Christian music composer.
Mhm.
So he worked with Gloria Gaither,
Yeah.
Sandy Patty,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
like that. So he did quite well for himself. It would never brought him a lot of money, but he was doing what he was passionate about.
Mhm.
But anyway, so yeah, I was a little kid and I used to sit in the backyard and catch for him. He was a pitcher.
Uh-huh.
Baseball, not softball.
Yeah.
And I got knocked on my bottom a lot. He didn't really take it. Well, he probably did take it easy on me, but he was an impactful pitcher. And I just loved it. And I watched the Kansas City Royals with my dad all the time. And then I think it was probably around 3rd or 4th grade, I realized that girls don't get to have that career.
Oh.
And that was probably the start of my feminist leanings. That seemed unfair.
Yeah.
And, but I really, other than that, I really just wanted to be involved in music somehow.
Mhm.
So either playing piano or singing or writing music or something. So.
Well, you could have been the organist playing like the baseball tune.
That's true.
That could have matched the passions.
That's true. I could have. I don't think I would. I don't like that music.
I don't
That
blame
would be
you.
boring.
It would be boring.
Yeah.
It would be boring.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, times are a changing. So
Yes, they are.
you never know these days.
It's a little late for me, and I'm pretty out of shape.
I mean, you could catch.
I could.
That would be a great thing. You're dreaming about being a baseball player, probably very much a tomboy, maybe a little bit. Oh my gosh, me too. Totally. Very much myself, as you can tell. For the listeners that are not here seeing anything, very much a tomboy kind of girl. I grew up the same way around, my parents weren't very much sports people, but my uncle and my grandpa was, and we would watch, they'd always have a game on or whatever, but I always fell in love with, I wanted to play baseball. Yeah. But and then in high school, I was like, I'm going to play softball. And then my mom's like, well, there's a lot of games on the weekend. I'm like, never mind. So I don't really feel like there's a lot more to it. Whereas I played basketball, tennis, and golf. So I stayed busy enough. But what was it like growing up in school? What were you a good student? Was that kind of like, did you like school? You seem like somebody that would really like history or... Yeah, I did. I think the only subject I really didn't like was algebra. Yeah. I was very good at geometry. So that's, I think that's more of a right-brained kind of a thing. But I enjoyed writing but I was very focused on my music activities. So I probably didn't do my best work in high school, but it wasn't terrible. I don't have horrible memories. So what were you doing in high school with your music stuff? I was in as many choirs as I could be in. My high school had a really big, we had like 70 people in our choir. And I was also the pianist for a lot of the choirs. Oh, wow. Also, in junior high, I was, my junior high teacher got me interested in conducting, actually. Oh, wow. So she and I played the piano for the junior high orchestra and also some of the choir pieces that we did. But she, her name was Gertrude Paul. What a great name, Gertrude. She really encouraged me to think about conducting and composing, which I hadn't really thought about before. And so I remember she gave me a piece that she wanted me to try to conduct on a concert. It was just our little junior high, whatever. But I took it seriously and I really worked at it, and she helped me. And so that was where I kind of got bitten by the conductor bug. Can you take me to that moment when it's your first time standing on stage and you're about to conduct all these people? And was there any nervousness or butterflies? No. That was another weird thing. I always got really nervous when I played solo piano. Wow. And I was a pretty advanced pianist by the time I got to high school, but I would just shake so bad when it was time to perform. And so, it's terrible when your hands shake and you're trying to play the piano. Yeah. But I never got nervous about singing. I could sing in front of anybody, and I never got nervous about when I was conducting. I never have. It's just like gift. I think with conducting, I'm just concentrating so much on what's in front of me. I got to make sure I cue the altos right there, and I got to make sure my tempo's right, and my dynamics have to be. There's a lot to think about when you're conducting. And so I'm just always, that's where my brain is. It's never, I don't even think about the audience out there. I feel like whenever I perform or do anything, it's so funny because I'm very comfortable at the places I've played a lot. But sometimes when I go to a new place, I'm a little bit more nervous. And you talk about your hand shaking. It's my leg that shakes. So on the pedal, it's just going back and forth and back and forth. Yes. And I grew up, like I told you earlier, I grew up in the Southern gospel realm, and we would travel and sing. And it's funny now, there's only one place that I actually get super, super nervous at. And it's so funny because all the people I love and they love me, but I'm so glad that they have like that skirt that goes around the piano. Yes. You know what I mean? Because my leg is just going up and down and stuff. And but it's so funny that everybody in the arts that perform or whatever, their nerves are different at different times.
Yeah.
You know, when I did my first musical in town, which was the 9 to 5 musical, it was so funny because I wasn't nervous.
Yeah.
Which was a really weird feeling for me because I was always nervous. You want to do it well. Like, you know, especially growing up in church, you just want to make sure everything's going well. You know, you want it to be very smooth and able to conduct well. And when I was standing backstage, it was so funny because all I can remember was like, oh, I'm really not nervous. It was more excitement than it was nerves. And that was a really cool kind of feeling for me. So can you kind of take me down a little bit in your training as becoming an orchestra conductor?
I can't even remember. It might have been Gertrude Paul, my junior high choir teacher, who encouraged me to sight read something every day on the piano. Because I was already a pretty good pianist, and I was a fairly good sight reader, and I was always tackling things that were harder, that were too hard for me to play. I remember since my mom was a piano teacher, she would take me to Lieben Music, which was a big music store in downtown Kansas City. Once every 2 weeks, she would go there to purchase music for her students. And so she would always take me with her, and I was allowed to buy 2 things. And that I wanted to learn to play myself. I was plowing through music really fast. And this started when I was, 7 or 8 years old.
Wow.
They had these, what they call browse boxes. You could go through these huge boxes of music and you could take a browse box to a practice room with a piano in it and play through stuff.
Oh, wow.
To try, sort of test drive all the music. So I would spend hours and hours in those little pods. And I remember when I was in 9th grade, my big purchase was Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin.
Wow.
Which I had no business trying to play. I mean, it's an incredibly hard piece. But I probably spent about a year just working to learn that piece, but I had always been that way. I was always really interested in practicing. That's what I loved, which, probably 7 out of 10 music majors will say, I hate practicing. I love performing, right? But practice was where I got my thrills. That was my drug. And so it was really hard to get me off the piano bench. I remember my brother had a rock band that he had in the basement. And I would be on the piano upstairs in our house practicing Bach 2-part inventions or whatever, it was usually something Bach or Mozart or Haydn or something classical because I loved classical music. I was fascinated by it. It was not played a lot in my house. So I don't know where I
was wondering where
landed
you
on it. Somehow but I got really turned on by Bach. And now that I'm when I grew up to be a composer, I understand now because Bach was, in my opinion, the greatest composer that ever lived. And his music is it's interesting to dissect it. And why did he go here? Why is that there? Why is this A flat instead of A? As I was playing his music, I was exploring what he was doing as a composer too. That was where my brain was. But anyway, I'd be practicing the same 2 measures over and over again of, whatever I was working on, and which could be annoying to listen to, I will admit. But I think if my own kids were doing that, I'd be thinking, wow, you're really practicing well. That's good practice. And my mom, who was the piano teacher, would just say, that's giving me a headache. Stop. She just plays the same 2 measures over and over. And I'm like, wait a minute, you teach this. But then my brother would be in the basement, cranking away on his crazy rock and roll music, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, or the Beatles, or whatever was hot at the moment. And they never said anything to him. My parents would just be like, whatever. They just ignored it. But if the vertical hold on the television got messed up, then it was time to go downstairs and say, turn that down, buddy. That's too loud. So that's that's what my whole life was like as a kid growing up. It was like I was the pariah in the family for my classical music. But yeah, it's kind of the opposite of most people would be like, oh, yay, my kid's playing classical music. No, not my family.
Oh, man.
But anyway, Gertrude Paul encouraged me to sight read something every day, and I still do it.
Really?
To this day. It made me really comfortable with reading music. It made me able to just look at a whole score, and I'm not daunted by seeing, 17
sheet.
lines.
Yeah.
Which orchestra music is like that. It's the whole
thing.
Everybody's part right there in front of you. I think that was a huge preparation for me, was just that piano work and just sitting down and spending 5 or 6 minutes sight reading something, even if it was just a hymn or whatever, just sight reading something once a day. And then I ended up being a really, really good piano sight reader, which earned me some good money in college. So they had me come in and play for all the music major auditions. It's like, okay, this kid's coming in and you've never seen this piece before, but they want to sing this. And
oh, wow.
Okay. Or this trumpeter wants to play this. Okay, blah, blah, blah.
I would nervous wreck.
Yeah. So I think that's part of what kept me from getting so terribly nervous when I was in a situation where it wasn't a solo, but I was just so focused on trying to put this together quickly in my brain.
Right.
The task itself, and it was exciting to me to do it. So that's kind of where that started. But Gertrude got me to sight reading, and I've never regretted it.
Which really obviously helped you so much in conducting and moving forward as you grew up.
Yeah.
At that time, what was the scene kind of like for women becoming professional conductors?
Well, yeah. I started my conducting degree. Well, there aren't many undergraduate programs that offer conducting as a major. So in my master's degree, I majored in conducting, but it was choral conducting. So because there weren't women symphony conductors.
So what's choral mean?
Like conducting a choir.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
see, I told you. I love music, but don't tell me the terms.
Well, if you're, a lot of people, when you say choral, they're thinking of the stuff in the sea.
Well, that's where it instantly went, and I'm like, I
they
don't
sing.
You never know that. You never know.
Be a thing. So conducting choirs is what I majored in because that field was not open to women. Wow. And I loved symphonic music. My second husband, who I met when I went back to school for my undergrad degree, he's a symphonic musician. Of course, I love that music. And by default, I went into choir conducting because I could sing, but I should have had the other open to me. It's something I always wanted to do. When I went for my doctorate, I did study orchestral conducting a bit and had a wonderful teacher at University of Illinois, Paul Vermel is his name, and he really encouraged me to pursue orchestral conducting, but it just wasn't heard of. Maren Alsop is a very famous woman conductor, and she's about my age, and she's kind of the one that led the path for all of us. And she was coming along around the same time that I came along, but she sure wasn't famous or well known, she was probably still in school when I was. I can't say for sure when she sort of broke the glass ceiling, but she did. And there are more women symphony conductors, but not many. We're still pretty rare. It's definitely what you would call a boys' club. And I have no idea what your sex has to do with your ability to conduct. It doesn't make any sense. But that's true of so many things in our world.
Right.
Yeah.
My generation is very privileged because of everybody that has gone before us. All of our different beliefs on this subject, especially, can be everywhere, but in the end, we have to see how much was done for us. You know, you really need to appreciate what was done before, and everybody who paved the way for you. You know, I work in a male dominated industry because I restore cars.
Oh, wow.
So
Yes.
it's very much a male-dominated industry. Dean Owens is one of down at Heartland Career Center. He was a teacher there. Is like a second dad to me at this point.
That's
you know what I
awesome.
mean?
Yeah.
But it's having people around you that support you, and my family supported me. Was your family like super supportive of the fact that you were going? Because I feel like, you know, creative arts trying to get, like you said, it's hard to get your foot in the door somewhat unless you're teaching, but to become something like a professional or whatever it might be. I mean, professional with quotations around that a little bit, because if you're good at it, you're pretty well professional. You know what I mean? In my opinion. What was that kind of tension for you?
Well, I mean, when I first went to college, I majored in music education. And I think piano was my primary instrument. And then my piano teacher encouraged me to to go into singing, partly because I just got so debilitatingly nervous when I had to perform. And I really struggled with memorizing piano music, but I could memorize vocal music in a snap, even different languages. I think my parents felt okay about the music ed major, but then by the time I took my little sabbatical to get married and, you know, have this dent in my life for 7 years, you know, I was already my own person then when I went back to college. So I didn't really have to concern myself too much with what my parents wanted because they weren't supporting me. I was doing that all on my own. I mean, I'm not saying they were unsupportive, but it wasn't beholden on them to have to support my career, just doing my own thing. But music ed ends up being the fallback for a lot of people. I mean, in all my years teaching college, some of the hardest conversations I had with parents of my students was trying to convince them that fame does not equal success in music performance. And that there are millions of musicians who are working. They've got homes, they're clothing and feeding their children. They're, you know, they're fine, but you've never heard their name. And a lot of people confuse those two things, but there is work to be done by musicians in the world. And, you know, every time you hear music in the grocery store, somebody played that music to record it. Some little violinist in the back row was sawing away and getting their paycheck. And you don't have any idea who that person was, but they're a working musician. Our jobs don't look like other people's sometimes. It's not a 9 to 5. Sometimes it doesn't come with health insurance. You know, it's
Very
just,
true.
You know, gigging, you're kind of cobbling together all of your things, or you might do a little teaching here and a little performing there. It doesn't mean that it's not a viable living. It's just that it doesn't look like the standard office job. So when I remarried, my husband's a musician too. So
there was no stopping it at that point.
No. I mean, we just have that empathy with each other. You know, we get it.
You've been teaching, but you're also working towards being on some of the most renowned stages in the world. I mean, how did you get to some of these stages? Can you tell us kind of where you've been? I'm all excited. Like I said earlier, like, you know, I'm reading through your bio and I'm like, no way. No way. I'm like, at every line, I'm like, no way. So can you kind of tell us about some of your big I mean, I don't want to like give the biggest things to these stages or whatever you might say, because every time you get to be able to perform is such a blessing and an amazing thing to be able to do. And it should fill you up no matter where you're playing, although like that mind thing, success and fame kind of thing. But can you kind of tell me about these stages that you've been on?
Well, I think the music world is a small one. And sometimes it's who you know as much as what you know, which doesn't sound really fair. Sometimes it isn't fair. But I think something I always tried to teach my children was, you know, be kind to everyone, because you just never know where that person is going to be when they remember your name or remember whatever their encounter with you was.
Never burn that bridge.
Yeah, you just don't ever want to go that direction. I've always tried really hard to be authentic and genuine in my encounters with anybody.
Right.
No matter who it is. The first friends that I made and every job that I had were the custodians, the security people, and the administrative assistants, people who do the paperwork, because they're super important and they can make your life miserable if they don't like you. Right? But it's not just a strategic thing, but those are important people.
Right, they are.
They're unsung so many of the times.
Yes.
Those people, like, they're just as important as the president of the company.
Yes.
Because in my opinion, they're probably more important. But anyway, I think that's what's happened in my life. I think I've just been myself. I was told during my time at University of Illinois, I was told by one of my instructors that I was too folksy and that nobody would ever respect me. I would never be able to get up in front of an ensemble and have them respect me because I'm not pretentious enough. And I thought, I'm not changing my personality.
Right.
And I thought, I think I'm a good enough musician that will command, my work should speak for itself. It really put me off that he said that. And he said, you come from small things and you're just never going to be important. And I was like, I'm not trying to be important. I just want to make music. So it was probably fortunate that I ended up not staying there, although he was the only person that I ever had an issue with, but I loved everybody else there. I definitely walked away from that experience making a choice that if my music can't garner the respect that I will need to make it as a conductor, composer, or whatever, then I need to do something else because I'm not changing my personality. About the third year, I think it was the second year I was at Manchester, was when I got my first invitation to conduct at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, gosh.
And somebody, I still don't really know how that happened.
Wow.
Somebody had heard my choir and, it was just weird because I didn't think they were that good. I mean, I was still trying to build, right? Because the choral program had kind of been let go. There wasn't the upkeep it needed. Somebody had faith in my abilities and my ability to get a group ready to go. So I ended up taking my choir. I think it was the third year that I was at Manchester, and I invited alumni to go, which is also a good thing because they were concerned about their choir program. So I had a whole bunch of alumni that went along. The president at that time, the president of the university, Parker Marden, asked me my first year, what are your goals for the choir? And I said, well, one of my goals is to get them overseas, to take them to tour overseas. And he said, okay, well, and then he called me. I'd kind of forgotten about it. He said, when do you want to do that? And I said, I'd like to do it within my first 5 years. So then the fifth year I was there, 2 years after Carnegie Hall, he called me on Thanksgiving Day. And he said, if you could take the choir anywhere in the world, where would you go? And he said, if you need to think about it, let me know. And I said, oh, no, I know exactly where I'd go. I would take them to Italy.
Oh, wow.
And because it's where choirs began, right? That's where the Vatican is. That's where, he said, well, okay. He said, I've got a grant.
Oh, my gosh.
And I can put $1,000 toward every student's trip.
Oh, my goodness.
And which was almost half of the fee. So it was huge.
Wow.
And I had 50 in the choir. And then I opened that up to alumni as well. So we ended up with 90 people on that tour.
So
that was a little bit crazy. But so Italy was a place that I returned to a bit, and Carnegie Hall ended up being a place that I returned to. It's kind of just people know you and they think about you.
We've got a little bit left on this episode, but what I wanted to kind of talk to you about, when you look at where you've played, sometimes we build up as artists or creative people, we build up to get to that one point. And then we get it and we're like, Okay. Like that was awesome. It was great, not downplaying it, but what was your thoughts on that? Because sometimes you feel like I have done all this, whether you're an author or you finally wrote a book, and then you're like, oh, okay, so write another book or whatever it might be. Of course, that's a lot of creative juices, you might say, but are they as prestigious in your creative heart as they are as we perceive them, which they are. And I'm not downplaying them, but that moment when you got on stage, it was a great honor, of course. But, when you left, was it like, this is what I worked for? Or was it like, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, for me, venues are awesome and really, they're all a little bit different, but I don't really have venue-oriented goals.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go back to Carnegie Hall, and hopefully will in the next few years.
Yes.
But that's more about just really loving that room and that space acoustically, more than it is about the prestige of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I already checked that box.
Yeah.
But and I like to take people with me so they can experience it too. I love performing in Assisi in Italy. It's one of my favorite places to perform. So yeah, there's just a lot of, I think I just follow the doors that open to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try I try really hard not to build up expectations that will land me in a disappointed place.
Right.
So it's just like, okay, I'm just keeping my head down, I'm doing my work, and then if this opportunity opens to me, I will walk through that door. And then that will lead to other doors, and I think that's just all of life. It doesn't, not even just the music part, but I don't really think a lot about sort of a pinnacle experience. It's all a trajectory. It's all a journey. Yeah.
This whole podcast is about bridging the gap between generations, and you're a teacher. I've heard your name 1,000 times around my area, and I think your selfness kind of goes before you a lot, which is what you set out to be when you were talking about how he said that you'd be nothing basically in the industry if you don't change. But I think it worked so well for you because you're so down to earth as somebody that has through young eyes looking at you and seeing what all you've accomplished. Looking back now, what is success for you right now? What does that mean to you?
I think just definitely bringing people together through music, breaking down barriers, absolutely generational barriers, is huge for me. In all of my years at Manchester University, I always invited alumni to do at least 2 or 3 things with us every year. When I started the opera program at the university, I invited everybody in the community to come and be in it. And I had I even had high school students in my operas. So some years I had kids who were 16 years old all the way up to in their 80s in the show. And and it's such a great experience for everybody. I truly believe that everyone has something to learn and everyone has something to teach. And so you can't go wrong when you put groups of people together who come from different places or who are in different places in their lives. Because, wow, how much can I learn from the 80-year-old guy in my opera? Even as the director, he's going to teach me a lot about just the way he goes about learning his music, or how he handles his role in the opera, or whatever, or, oh my gosh, doing a kick line, or whatever. Because I usually want somebody doing a kick line in my operas because I think it's funny enough. Expect that. But yeah, and your 80-year-old guy gets out there and goes, I can do this. And I'm like, you don't have to. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And it's just like awesome. And then the 18-year-olds are, well, what am I complaining about? You know, if he can do it, I'm going to get up there and do it. And the older people feel youthened by interacting with the younger people. That energizes them. And they all end up being great friends, which is beautiful. You know, how many times do you interact with an 80-year-old person that you've never met before, but you make music with them and suddenly you're, you know. So I just think that it's one of the most important things that we can do with art.
Yeah. Why is art so timeless? What makes music and a picture, a painting, or whatever it might be, any art form? What is it that makes it so timeless to us?
I think it's perspective, because there aren't wrong answers. If you listen to a piece of music, or you look at a painting, or you watch a dance production or whatever, you know, you're going to make in your mind, you're going to make out of that what you are going to make out of it. And since every single person in the audience, even every single person on the stage or the person doing the painting or whatever, everybody involved interacting with that piece of art, they all come from something different. They're all coming from a different place, and they're all going to a different place. So that point of interaction where we're all looking at something Leonardo da Vinci painted in 1600.
Right.
You know, no, that wouldn't be right. 1500. Anyway, but if we're all looking at the Mona Lisa, we're all at a different place in our journey, but we've all intersected right in front of that painting. And I think that's remarkable.
Wow. Yeah.
Same thing with when I conduct a symphony concert, or it's like all these people in the audience, everybody in the orchestra, we are in that moment. And it will never, unlike visual art, audio art or dance, it just happens in that moment. Live performance.
There's something so
it's air.
Yes. It like seeps into you. You can't control it.
And it goes away.
It's beautiful.
So you have this communal experience that is,
gosh,
we're all passing through
life. Yeah.
At a different place, but boom, we all land right there. And that's super exciting to me.
That's like that bridging the gap. Exactly. There's just something about music and art that it continually speaks to us, whether it's with literal words, with poetry or song lyrics, or just the beautiful notes in a song. And what I love about music, especially music without words, is it takes you to a place different from somebody sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And even song lyrics will take somebody else somewhere else as well. But I just mean there's something where your mind can just wander and create a whole story within yourself. And most of the time you're the main character.
Yeah.
Right. And like, you know, it's just amazing to see that. And you can listen to a piece from years ago that somebody at some point in time was sitting at a piano with their mother or their grandmother or their dad playing whatever it might be. And to think that it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I'm so glad it hasn't changed, that music is still such a strong aspect.
Yeah.
You know, and art is such a strong aspect. I want to leave on one note, and I got two last questions for you, okay? And when I say one note, I meant like this is kind of wrapping it up. Whole chord, yeah, thank you. Okay. What is the biggest piece of advice you have ever gotten in your entire life that you kind of stands out to you?
Gosh. Blunder boldly.
What does that mean?
Means just go full on, be bold, and just try stuff. It's not going to be perfect all the time. There's the blunder part. But if you're going to make a mistake, make a big one. And and learn something from it. So that's a phrase that I used with my students forever and my kids, and it's blunder boldly. And I can't even remember who said it to me, but it was years ago. And I thought, oh, yeah. I think trying to be perfect is one of the worst things musicians can do for themselves, because it's what we do isn't about perfection.
Kind of almost vulnerability in a way.
Yeah. You have to open yourself up in order to make an impact. And I think it's one of the reasons that live music is really important to people. People keep going to take in live music because it's different every time. It's not the prepackaged recording.
Right. She's pointing to my record player, by the way.
That's perfect. And it's something that all these people who are making music on their phones now, right? And there's not a thing in the world wrong with that. You make art any way you can make it. For heaven's sake, please keep doing that. But that's a product. But live music is something that's going to be different every time. If you perform the same piece, you do 6 different concerts, but it's all the same repertoire, you're going to get 6 very different performances.
That just was going to be a question, but you just answered it, because I was going to say, like, why would somebody want to come and see live music? Because, in a way, the arts is catapulting, but also there's some things that we still need to support the arts. And I encourage that. I think we both encourage that. Really.
I think it's something that COVID taught us.
Right.
Because we couldn't have live music for, a couple of years in there.
That is true.
Then I think we all figured out, I miss this. I miss this. Even just sitting next to somebody in an audience, you couldn't do.
There's a connection there.
Yeah.
It's
somehow a communal experience.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to end with one last question, and then I'm going to have you tell people where they can find you and about your new group, and then kind of we'll end up there. But one thing I want to leave with every episode is, if I'm talking to an older generation than myself, I want to ask them, if you could ask a younger person any question, and it could be about absolutely anything. You might not ever get a chance to ask, or finding that right person to ask, maybe. What would you ask somebody my age or younger?
Oh.
I did not prep her in any way. I kind of wanted it to be.
Pause.
I wanted it to be spontaneous.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't be. It's not a hard question because I can't think of one. It's a hard question because I still interact with a lot of people your age.
Yeah.
And I ask them a lot of questions. So it's like, which one am I? Because I'm super interested. I suppose it would be maybe, if it's about
it could be
music,
anything. Yeah.
Where would you like to see the world of music in 20 years? What do you think your interests will be at that time?
That's a really good question. And I plan on asking that to one of my guests that's my age. And so that's kind of why I wanted to do it, because you really pinpointed a thing that is so important to me, is that my generation can respect your generation all day long. But if your generation are not interested in our generation, that's where I keep on bridging the gap both ways, because it's a two-way conversation. Like anything. And it's not like it's a bad right now. It's not that I don't want to ever paint that picture. Right. But I like that you said I'm very interested, and I ask a lot of questions. And I think that should encourage anybody to ask more questions. I think we're afraid to ask questions because we don't know what we'll hear. will agree with, and that's a subject for a whole other time.
Yes.
Right. But I really enjoyed our conversation, and I could talk to you like all the time. Maybe one day I'll talk to you about all your creative processes, because oh my goodness, that was kind of the plan, and then I got sucked into everything that you were talking about. Not really the full plan, but that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. But one day we will sit down if you're ever interested again, and if you're never gonna fire me from interviewing you.
We could do a sequel.
A sequel, yes. Tell us where we can find you, and tell us about your new group. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, it's a company.
Company is the better word. That's a professional word.
That's right. Well, we've had some. When my position was eliminated at Manchester University, I decided I had the wonderful fortune of a person coming to me that I had never met before, but she had heard of me and she'd kind of followed my work at Manchester University. And she just came up to me at an event and said, I have some money and I have some connections and I want to help you with what you're going to do next.
Oh my goodness.
So what would that be? I said, well, I haven't really had a chance to study for this test. So I said, let me think about it for a few days and then let's get together over coffee or whatever. And I had no idea what she was talking about. If she meant just like she wanted to commission a composition from me or what. So I made a list of about 5 or 6 things in increasing dollar amounts. Mm-hmm. This is really crazy and expensive, or this is less crazy and expensive. And so I met with her, and then the first thing she did was lean across the table and say, I want to hear your craziest idea that you don't think anybody will be interested in. And wow. I said, well, okay, so let me go to number 6 on my list. And I said, I really think Fort Wayne needs an opera company.
Wow.
Because they have so many great arts things going on, mm-hmm. but they don't, I just see an opera-sized hole when I look at Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. And I love opera. It's something that's always been near and dear to my heart. I started out thinking for a little while, I was going to be an opera singer myself. So she actually was surprised by that. But then about an hour later, after talking with her, I remember sitting in my car thinking, oh my gosh, this might actually happen. We ended up incorporating, it's called Opera Today.
As your mug says.
Yes,
I
as
love
it says. I have stickers. We thought about calling it Opera Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. But because I wanted it to be something really forward-looking and not necessarily stuck in a regional thing, mm-hmm. The mission is more than Fort Wayne. The mission is about making opera relatable to mm-hmm. all generations.
Oh, I love it.
And, can Simone Biles be Cinderella? Of course she can. Let's do that.
Yeah.
We can adapt these old operas that are public domain. We're free to adapt those and make something really relatable about it.
Yeah.
Throw in a Marvel comic character or something.
That's so cool.
Deflator Mouse can be Batman. Absolutely. That's kind of where that all came from. So I decided to call it Opera Today because a lot of it is about sort of modernizing this art form that's really antiquated. And I have always called myself an opera evangelist.
Yes.
Love winning people over to opera and helping them see that it's a really cool, relatable art form. So that's Opera Today. We recently we've done one production. So we've been sort of in our fundraising year.
Yeah.
So we're looking towards some things in the spring. Mm-hmm. Some productions in the springtime that I'm hoping we can pull off. It's all funding dependent. Mm-hmm. So
how can people help you?
Any listeners out there want to?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Our website has a big, huge blue donate button.
Awesome. And is it just Opera Today?
It is opera-today.com.
Okay.
Yep. It's a pretty cool website. We've got some interesting stuff on there. We're going to have merchandise soon, some shirts and some tote bags and things like that. We recently became a company in residence at Purdue Fort Wayne.
Oh, wow.
In their School of Music. So our offices will be housed there. Mm-hmm. And we'll have use of their rehearsal spaces. So that'll be a really interesting partnership. We can involve their students
That's really
They
cool.
can do apprenticeships with us. Even if somebody wants to learn lighting design or whatever, they can sit next to my lighting designer and go,
That's really
okay, I can learn from this. And
what an opportunity.
so, yeah. So I'm super excited about that. I'm still conducting the MSO. They haven't gotten rid of me yet. So, but a lot of people ask that. They think I'm only doing this. I'm also teaching adjunct at PFW. So I have some voice students there and I'm helping with their opera class. So
you don't slow down.
I don't.
You're just constantly busy.
I'm like a shark. If I stop moving, I'll stop breathing.
Oh my goodness.
We're just going to keep going.
Well, I'm so glad that you came and said yes, of course, to coming and talking with me. So they can find Opera Today on the website. Is there any social media with that yet? Or yes, as well.
Opera Today. There's a blog that's called Opera Today that is not affiliated with us. But we do have our own Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
So MSO is on all of those places as well. I'm trying to think of I think the MSO website is just manchestersymphonyorchestra.org.
Okay.
Which is a really long address. And then my personal stuff is debralynmusic.org.
Perfect.
So,
well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I know I've said you thank you 1,000 times, but like it's been so fun. And I encourage everybody to make sure to go check out all of her websites and donate if you can. You know, keeping the arts going is so important to bridging that gap with generations. And also as well, if you want to see what she looks like or anything in between and you're curious to learn more about her, I will have a Facebook and Instagram post alongside this as well with the episode. So make sure you head over at Here in My Time on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Here in My Time on my website, and you'll find her picture as well there. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. You guys take care, and I hope you got a little dash of life. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode because I sincerely did. I am incredibly inspired every single time someone walks into my studio and sits down. I am able to look in their eyes and I am welcomed into their story, and that is priceless. It is a great honor and also a great responsibility to think that when they said yes to come onto my podcast, that meant that they trusted me. They trusted me enough to allow me to help tell their story, and to me, that means the world. So thank you to my guest. If you'd like to connect with my guest, if they left any or mentioned any of social media or websites, it will be in the description box below, as well as on my Facebook and Instagram if you want to see what they look like. I have a portrait and a small little write-up along with anything they mentioned within this podcast. So I hope today that you have been inspired to look at your own life and to see that just living your life is important. But I want to inspire you as well to actually document your life. You have an importance in this world, and I want you to use your voice. So it doesn't have to look like 6 pages in a journal or being on a podcast. It can look like a line a day. If you'd like to connect with me, make sure you head over to hereinmytime.com. That is where I have a bi-weekly blog, as well as some of my portfolio work with photography, and where you can also contact me through email at hereinmytime@gmail.com, as well as follow me on Facebook and Instagram. This is at Here in My Time as well, here.inmytime for Instagram, and I have weekly content. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world. And until next week, bye-bye.